This is CBC Here and Now.
Canada's men's soccer team came up a little short today in its World Cup game, but fans here at the Trinity Pub didn't walk away unhappy. I'm Jeremy Eaton. I'm live downtown. We'll have all the fan reaction coming up.
The family of one Bishops Falls resident wants her home support worker to take her into her home, but says Central Health isn't offering enough money. Just ahead, the newest part of the CBC series concerning care.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. Once again, we begin with the province's ongoing healthcare crisis. The mayor of St. Lawrence says ER closures in his town are causing confusion and fear. Last night, you heard how the closure of the emergency room in Whitburn is putting pressure on paramedics. As Here and Now's Heather Gillis reports, about 3 hours away, a similar stress is being felt.
It's a crisis of consistency. The emergency room in St. Lawrence is open just half the time, sometimes closed days, sometimes during the night, sometimes not open at all. Since late summer, the ER has been shut down for nearly 70 days. That's more than 2 months in total. Frustrating for Mayor Kevin Pittman, who fears the worst.
We haven't seen it yet, but I will guarantee you over the next while, if this continues, we are going to have a death. And that death is going to be caused by a lack of service here in St. Lawrence.
It's one of about a dozen in the province facing closures due to staff shortages, something paramedics in Whitburn know a lot about. That ER has been closed for nearly 5 months. The mayor of St. Lawrence asked Eastern Health for a second ambulance when the ER is closed, but he says that coverage has also been spotty. And he's hearing horror stories. 2 separate residents having a stroke at the same time. Only 1 ambulance available.
We had a second stroke patient here in St. Lawrence that needed to be brought to hospital. And actually that patient's family had to bring that person halfway to Bjorn before they could meet the ambulance coming back, before they could be transported by ambulance.
It's hard to know when or if the ER is open or closed. Residents often bypass it and head straight to the next nearest hospital. But that's a half an hour away in Buren. Pittman fears that spells closure for St. Lawrence.
Eastern Health keeps telling us, well, your numbers are going down in St. Lawrence. Well, I can tell you why our numbers are going down. They never know if the hospital is open or if it isn't open for emergency, so they're taking the nearest ambulance to Bjorn to get their care as quick as they can.
Pittman says the St. Lawrence Health Centre once had 2 doctors and almost a dozen nurses. Now they're down to 1 doctor and 4 nurses.
They were going to base their emergency care on basically on the schedule of 1 nurse who had come out of retirement to help service area.
Eastern Health had a plan to open the ER 5 days a week, but Pittman says that plan fell apart within days. Eastern Health says it wasn't aware of the St. Lawrence family that had to meet its ambulance halfway. The health authority says it is trying to recruit staff to stabilize services and says it doesn't have plans to close the ER permanently. But in the meantime, residents can expect their emergency room in St. Lawrence to remain closed until Monday. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, 3 more people have died from COVID-19 in the province. That's according to the province's latest update issued earlier this afternoon. 17 people are now in hospital as a result of the virus. 5 of those people are in critical care. Well, now to some news for high school students. The province's Department of Education has canceled this year's public exams. According to a statement released this afternoon, exams are under review for the future as well. The department says the system that was in place prior to the pandemic may no longer meet students' educational needs, and it's looking to create a new system of evaluating high school students.
Well, the wind is going to return for a good chunk of the province as we head through tomorrow, as we see a couple of weather systems move in. We still have those blizzard warnings in effect up across Labrador from Nain to Makkovik. Otherwise, wind warnings have now been issued for the northern peninsula, pretty much all along the northeast coast. and along the south coast as well. And then we also have blowing snow advisories in place. Now, what's going to happen? We've got a couple of systems moving in, and they're retrograding. That means they're moving from east to west instead of the typical west to east. So they're coming off the ocean. So we've got this area of low pressure up across Labrador. That's going to bring those blizzard conditions with some really windy conditions starting tonight and then into tomorrow. And then this area of low pressure essentially doing a loop-de-loop over the ocean, and then it's going to head right back in, and that's going to bring some snow. We're also going to see these bands of lake effect continue along the coast as well. Now, going to bring quite a bit of snowfall, and then obviously the blowing snow. I'll get into those full details coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. A missing snowmobiler who was located by Stephenville Search and Rescue yesterday has died. The 43-year-old man was missing for a number of hours overnight. The man had been traveling with a group who located his overturned ATV but couldn't find the driver. He was later airlifted from the backcountry between Stephenville and Gallants. A statement from police say he was not properly dressed for the conditions. Seniors advocates say many pensioners are already struggling to make ends meet each month. As we reported yesterday, residents of the province will receive quarterly checks to help offset Ottawa's carbon tax coming in July. Local experts say any additional taxes hurt seniors.
The price of food and goods and medications and fuel have just escalated exponentially over the past couple of years, and as it keeps going up almost day after day, there's just no keeping ahead of it.
The programs themselves seem to be really designed to support homeowners, and a vast majority of folks who are low-income earners or those who may be living in poverty, those are folks who are renters and may not be able to avail of some of the upfront grant programs to transition from oil heating to a heat pump. The upfront cost that might be attached to it may just be more than a lot of folks can bear.
They're living check to check from month to month. I think there's such a huge lack of understanding of the poverty out there. 6,000 residents in Newfoundland are living way, way below the poverty line. Seniors, these are seniors. And, not enough attention is paid to that. I think there's a lot of kind of hope that maybe they'll die off. And usually seniors as well don't protest. They don't have the energy for it. A few people I talked to, I said, complain to your MHA about the concerns they have and the poverty they're experiencing. And they don't even have the energy to pick up the phone, or they don't even have a phone, some of them.
A person just has to go to the supermarket and to watch an older couple or an older person going around the supermarket with their grocery cart. And you can see people picking up goods and putting them back, looking at the prices and being absolutely amazed and appalled.
In the short term, of course, any adjustment or any extra cost is a burden on many people. Our community is about a third senior citizens with largely fixed incomes. And so any change to their weekly bills or monthly bills hurts, and it's going to have an impact. So we've got to figure out ways to ease that transition.
Our ongoing series concerning care is sharing the struggles some people face with home and respite care. Well, tonight's story is about a Bishops Falls woman in need of home support. As Here and Now's Henrika Wilhelm reports, getting support isn't the problem. It's the financial hurdles that are most frustrating for the family and for the woman's caregiver.
Okay, Denise, we gotta put your bib on now, okay?
From the outside, it looks like a home support worker and her client. And yet, it's much more. They're like sisters.
I've picked up on a lot of different things about Denise. I understand her, even though she's not able to actually, she's not able to actually talk and tell you what she wants. Yeah.
That's why Miriam Lachteaho wants to move Denise Champion into her own home.
Feeling all right?
Champion has cerebral palsy, seizures, diabetes, an intellectual disability, and she is legally blind. All her life, her mother Betty was her primary caregiver, supported by Lachdeaho for the past 7 years. But in July, Betty died, and Lachdeaho offered to step in to become an alternate family care provider. That's when someone takes an unrelated adult with an intellectual disability into their home and cares for them, offering a family setting.
I feel like, I'm the one that knows her best after Betty, and, I can take care of her the best after her own mother. I feel very strongly about it. I feel like, I can do it, and I want to do it. I just feel like Denise needs me there.
About 400 kilometers away in St. John's, Champion's sister Lisa Marsh was on board right away.
We thought that was good. She knows Denise's needs the best. She's been there the longest. And that all she needed was a living wage to be able to maintain her lifestyle, I guess, and pay the bills, pay the mortgage.
There you go.
But that's where the problems begin. Several offers were made by Central Health, none good enough, say Marsh and Lachdeaho. Lachdeaho would receive $2,500 monthly, tax-free, or about $30,000 a year. Champion would also receive a small monthly amount for her own expenses.
Virtually, they want her to become mom, only they don't want to pay for it. I don't understand this level of thought process behind it. In order for her to go to a long-term care home, it would cost twice as much money. Denise's care is astronomical.
Champion requires help 24/7, including with personal care, the bathroom use, and meal preparation. Due to her seizures, she regularly wets the bed, laundry, a daily task. And someone needs to be next to her at night so she doesn't fall out of bed. But with the pay Central Health offered, Lachdeaho would need another job and says that's impossible.
You'd be so tired and stressed out, it wouldn't make for a very good situation. Alan Jackson, that's your favorite.
Central Health told CBC News it doesn't comment on individual cases. If no new offer is made, says Marsh, moving Champion into long-term care might be unavoidable.
If she has to go to a long-term care home, then they need to sit down with us and they need to tell me how that works.
Let us know what we got to do to move to the next level and how Denise will be looked after until she gets into a bed. That's all we want. And it's unbelievable. At this point in time, you can't get 10 minutes of somebody's time to have a conversation.
For Lachdeaho, long-term care is unthinkable.
I'll do whatever I have to do, but I don't want to, she's still young, she's still young enough, to live a life, to go out, to enjoy life. She understands a lot more than, what we can even understand, so I'm not going to walk away like that.
She doesn't want to walk away, but needs enough money to live on. Both Lachdeaho and Marsh say a decision is needed. As soon as Betty Champion's will is probated, the house will have to be sold, and Denise will need somewhere to go. Henrike Wilhelm, CBC News, Bishops Falls.
Well, if you have a story that you would like to share, please let us know. You can email us at care-struggles@cbc.ca. Well, a warning from Hydro. People on the Avalon may experience outages tomorrow. That's due to testing on the Labrador Island Link, which brings electricity to Soldiers Pond. That line has been plagued by computer software problems. If there are issues with tomorrow's test, Hydro could temporarily cut power to some customers. Those outages typically last about 30 minutes, and officials say they'll keep people posted on social media. A similar test is scheduled for next week. Well, a Paralympian from this province is preparing for another major competition, one that's been put on hold since the pandemic. Liam Hickey will play for Team Canada in the 2022 Para Hockey Cup, which is being held next week in Bridgewater, Nova Scotia. Hickey is one of 10 players on the national team who won silver at this year's Paralympic Winter Games in Beijing. Canada's first game is scheduled for Sunday at 3:30 p.m. Island time against Italy.
All right.
Well, staying with sports, Team Canada is back in the game after nearly 4 decades. I'm talking, of course, about the FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Here at home, fans gathered to watch this evening's match against Belgium, including our own Jeremy Eaton, who's at the Trinity Pub in St. John's. Jeremy.
So yeah, Carolyn, we're down here at the Trinity Pub in downtown St. John's, and Canada did come up a little short. They lost to Belgium, who is one of the top teams in the world, by the way. But they lost 1-0, as they say in the footy world. But I don't know a lot about soccer, but I do have a guest, Bobby Gamba, who does know a lot about soccer. So Bobby, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to be here.
So what's going on down here? I understand that you organized a little bit of the events and the activities that will happen during the World Cup down here at the Trinity. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I am, and there's a few other members here. We're a member of the Voyageurs, which is Canada's soccer supporters group. So we travel to there's 25,000 Canadians at the World Cup right now. We travel to other countries just to watch us attempt to qualify, home games as well. And we across the country they put off events, so we decided to have one here at St. John's.
And what was the turnout like today because when we got here, as you saw we might have seen some of the pictures, standing room only, but what was the turnout like from your point of view?
Yeah, it's probably better than we expected. We filled up for pregame at 2:30, which is an hour before kickoff, and as you said, standing room only, but we're just happy to have some sort of event to call our own and support our national team.
You're a soccer player, I understand?
Yes, I am, yeah.
And just tell our viewers at home, who do you play for, Bobby?
So I play for the Fieldings Athletic Association in the Challenge Cup League in Newfoundland.
So how long have you been a fan of the great game of soccer?
My whole life. My parents are both from the UK, so I guess it was kind of just embedded in since I was born, and then from there it's just been Canada, yeah.
I'm not one to assume, but were you alive in 1986?
I was not, no. I was definitely not alive in 1986.
Obviously, 36 years ago was the last time the men's team played in the World Cup. What did it mean to you to be able to watch a team that you love from the country that you're from play in its the first World Cup game for the men's team since 1986?
It truly meant everything. It was like a night, it was a sleepless night last night. A few of my friends and I, we went to the game where we qualified in Toronto against Jamaica, and tears everywhere. It means everything to us. It truly does, yeah.
Now, for our viewers at home who might not have been able to see the game, what happened? What happened to Canada? I know 1-0 is pretty good against one of the best teams in the world, but from your point of view, how do you think the game went?
Yeah, as you said, we were up against it playing the second-ranked team in the world, but we had that early penalty. You think you might score, we don't. That's the way football goes sometimes. And to be fair, we took our game to one of the best teams in the world. And I think as Canadians, we can all be proud of that. We didn't sit back and wait for our chance. We really took the game to them. And I think John Herdman and his team can build on that towards Croatia on Sunday.
Bobby, man, it's nice to meet you. I appreciate your insight. Thanks so much for this. And if you want to come down and see Bobby in person, he'll be here at 12:40 on Sunday. 12:30 on Sunday for the next Team Canada match. And we actually checked out another event today with a bunch of young Fieldian players who are watching, having their own watch party. So we're going to take a look at the highlights out of that coming up later on the show. Reporting live for Here and Now, I'm Jeremy Eaton in St. John's.
Well, it is going to feel very wintry again across a good chunk of the province as we head through tomorrow. Wind warnings, blowing snow advisories. I'll get into the full forecast details coming up.
MP is calling the federal and provincial governments racist for refusing to give the Mushwa Innu the right to self-govern. As part of our special feature, Return to Davis Inlet, our Ariana Kellen spoke with Peter Panashaway about the Innu's journey to reclaiming their own affairs. She also brought his concerns to Lisa Dempster, the minister responsible for Indigenous Affairs and Reconciliation.
What Canada and Newfoundland always insist on is that we'll give you self-governance, but it's based on delegated per se, which means that they give you the authority to be self-governance, but they also want to control how that would look in the future. Like, for example, the province is saying we want to control over who's going to qualify as a teacher. Okay. And that should be our responsibility. No, it's got to be to a minimum standard of provincial standards. These are our children. These are our schools. We should decide how the curriculum is going to look like and how we're going to implement our education. But the province wants to have control over that. The feds are not helping.
So when you look at education, controlling care of children, do you get the sense that they don't trust your judgment?
Is it trust or is it racism? Right? Racism to me is that one group of people feel that they're superior over another group. They know what's best for the other group. And I think that's what's happening. Canada and Newfoundland feel that they're superior to the Innu. Therefore, they don't want to let go of that authority, of that jurisdiction, whether it's in education, policing, or child welfare.
So, I mean, he's making some, big claims there that there's racism at play, that both levels of government don't want to give up that control. I mean, what do you make of what he has to say?
I can't speak for the federal government, but I can tell you provincially, I don't think I'm overstepping to say that not only that we value the relationship that we have with Innu, but I think we have an open dialogue that we have not had in our history before. The Premier and I meet weekly with Indigenous leaders around this province, of which the Innu are participants. We have some social issues, as you might know, in Goose Bay. We have an action team on the ground, but also an acute response team, of which the Premier placed 4 ministers on. Myself and the Justice Minister co-chair that. The Innu are a part of that. Deputy Grand Chief is Nui, is a regular attender, Chief Hart and sometimes Chief Nui. And I think we have a great relationship, and there are mechanisms in place whereby services can devolve down so that the Innu are leading and running more programs and services in their community. We support them wholeheartedly in that. I have been in the communities of Sheshi and Natwishish in the schools since they now have their own educational run systems, and it's heartwarming. It's very touching to go in and to see where they have come, to see the capacity that they have in health programs. There's other areas that would probably would desire one day to have the capacity that they now have in their communities in some of these programs.
I'll take a look at this. A woodpecker enjoying a feast in Lab City.
Oh, wow. Our video producer in Western Labrador, Daryl Din, captured this scene right outside his living room window. A nice close-up look at the woodpecker chowing down. Looks pretty chilly in Labrador with all that snow down. Lots of snow, it seems, right across the province and the island.
Yep, we saw, the first little bit of snowfall. Here in St. John's, but it has been snowing across the province, pretty much for the last couple of weeks, let's just say that. So especially in Corner Brook, we've been talking about those snow squalls, and this photo was shared with me on Twitter by Keith Cormier. So I thought, let's look into the amount of snow that's fallen in Corner Brook. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying that this specific station very rarely actually gives us any indication of what's happening. For example, last snowfall total was as of November 19th, so any of the snow that has fallen over the last 4 days is not in this, but 39.2 centimeters is what has been recorded. The average 37, close to 37, so we're above that already, and the record's 114. Now, I am anticipating that this number is significantly higher just because we have been seeing quite a bit of snow in and around the west coast of the island, just because we're seeing that snow squall. But we're going to see a lot more, and there's a lot more where that came from over the next couple of days. So what's going on right now? We've got an area of low pressure offshore, another one offshore up across Labrador that is going to really bring some blizzard conditions up across the big land. But the reason why we're seeing these snow squalls is all of this cold upper level air, and I've been talking about this for the last week or so, well, probably even longer than that, but we have been seeing quite a bit of cold air, and that really plays into the lake effect, or the sea effect, I should say, on the west coast. Now, up across Labrador, there's those temperatures I was talking about. Minus 14 in Lab City today. That was your daytime high. Minus 10 in Happy Valley Goose Bay. Then those temperatures along the coast, coldest in the Kovic. And then we're starting to dip into some of that colder air, or we are dipping into some of that cold air on the northern peninsula as well, about minus 8 in St. Anthony today. Now you factor in that wind chill, current temperature around minus 12, feels like minus 19, and those wind chills up across Labrador as well, either the minus teens or minus 20s even in Lab City. Minus 24 is what it's feeling like at the moment. So just taking a look at the satellite, I still don't have the Marble Mountain radar in my system yet, but it should be in within the next week or so, hopefully. But we are seeing some of those bands move through. You can see with that cloud cover. And we saw some showers and a few flurries roll through the Avalon as well earlier today. If I take away the satellite, you can see that those flurries and showers have now moved offshore for the most part. But as we head through tonight and into tomorrow, things are really going to start to get windy. So I've added those winds on there for you to show you what's going to happen. Pay attention up across Labrador, particularly in the north. As we head through the overnight, the winds will start to gust, potentially upwards of 100 kilometers per hour as that system starts to move in and brings those rounds of snow. So likely blizzard conditions. You will see blizzard conditions tonight along the west coast as well. This takes us through to tomorrow morning. We're already talking about those winds gusting between 70 and 80 kilometers per hour. Factor in that snow. We'll certainly see blowing snow conditions, and then really winds through tomorrow morning are already going to be gusting across the island somewhere between 60 and 80 kilometers per hour. Tonight's temperatures down to the minus teens again. So with those wind chills, with those winds, wind chills are going to be quite significant and very cold across the island as well. Minus 8 in Corner Brook tonight with those winds gusting 70. So you're definitely going to see some significant wind chills as well. Blowing snow advisory in place for tomorrow. And then no surprise there, because we're going to see these winds gusting and those wind warnings somewhere between 70 and even 80 kilometers per hour right through to tomorrow afternoon. And even more so as that area of low pressure gets closer, we're going to see those winds pick up even more. So now we're talking between 100 to 120 kilometers per hour in those exposed areas along the coast, combined with snowfall amounts that could exceed 10 to 20 centimeters in some cases, particularly along Bonavista Vista North and the west coast. So here's those snowfall totals as I was talking about. Higher elevations will see the most at this point, but we could be talking again another 20 to 30 centimeters along the west coast. Parts of central Bonavista Vista North between 15 and 20 is likely, and then in the metro area further east you go, likely talking between 2 to 5 centimeters as we head through the day. So that's a look at the forecast. We'll talk about the numbers, temperatures tomorrow, and the long range when I come back.
Like, we're a little bit more targeted because we're carrying something valuable. And you know, if someone sees a guitar, they might not know if it's worth $50 or $5,000. They know it's worth something. It's something that could be sold quickly and then move on to the next.
Reports about muggings and intimidation. Musicians who perform in downtown St. John's are worried about their safety walking to and from gigs and are calling for an increased police presence.
Our water supply was used as a dump site.
There was funerals and there was this one being diagnosed and that one, like for a while it was actually pretty scary.
You almost wish there was a lot more thought put into it before it even started. I wish it never existed.
Some musicians in St. John's are growing more and more concerned about safety in the downtown area. Last night, musician Greg Walsh from the Masterless Men shared his personal experience of being mugged on Water Street after he performed at the Fiona benefit concert a few weeks ago. Two men had approached him, grabbed his belongings, including two of his fiddles. Well, another local musician, Rowan Sherlock, later purchased those stolen fiddles and then tracked down Greg to return them. Well, tonight we'll also hear from Greg Follett, another local musician who feels there should be a bigger police presence downtown.
It's not so much that I've noticed like an increase in violence down here. I just feel like we're a little bit more targeted because we're carrying something valuable. And you know, like if someone sees a guitar, they might not know if it's worth $50 or $5,000. They know it's worth something. It's something that could be sold quickly and then move on to the next, you know. And I've personally felt the vibe change for, you know, a year, maybe a little over a year. I walk a lot to shows. A lot of times I do early evening shows and, you know, finish supper and walk down with my guitar on my back and like to listen to music sometimes, you know, walking like you would. And I don't do that anymore.
Because you want to be aware of your surroundings.
Absolutely. And nothing physical has happened. But I've had a few instances where I felt pretty unsafe, like I was clearly being followed. Like I'm not paranoid, I've been doing this for a long time, always walk to gigs. There's been a few times where I definitely felt like someone was following me or watching me, and it just, you know, it obviously makes you feel uneasy. And, you know, I've heard from other musicians that they've had similar experiences. We all know people that have been mugged or have had altercations, and it wasn't always that way. And it's kind of sad to feel that way when you're on the way to, you know, do something you love and make part of your living doing, you know.
What did you think when you heard about what happened to Greg?
Well, I was heartbroken for him, obviously. I mean, he told me about it and you know, my heart went out to him. I've heard of other people that have had similar experiences and it's always the same. It's really sad. Thankfully, most cases nobody has been like injured physically or hurt. Sometimes that does happen, but for the most part it's been a mugging or you know, stolen from a car on a loadout from a gig or taken off a stage or something like that.
What would you like to see change, all of you? What do you think needs to happen to make you and other musicians and people in general feel safer when they're in the downtown area?
I think that an increased police presence around this area, not just George Street, but surrounding area as well, would definitely help, you know, potentially deter someone who, if they were looking to target someone or were looking to, you know, take an instrument or something, at least if there was a presence, they might be a little bit more wary, you know. And awareness for musicians, like if you're carrying something that's valuable, be aware of you don't need to be, you know, I'm not trying to deter anyone from working or discourage people from coming out and coming downtown, because we need people to come out and see our shows. But just awareness, being aware of your surrounding. If you feel something might be a bit off, just, you know, try to find company or not, you know, don't walk around by yourself, just awareness.
We're talking about the police presence, and I just want to get your thoughts on this as well. Have you noticed a decrease in the amount of police that you see downtown? And what are your thoughts on whether that should be?
I wouldn't say myself necessarily a decrease, but it hasn't really been this kind of situation before where we needed more. But it is getting to that situation now, especially we're coming up to the Christmas season now as well. We have a lot more gigs and events coming down, a lot more musicians are going to be coming out, and as well as a lot more public coming out to the events. So that safety is going to be number one. So yeah, not necessarily a decrease recently, but we definitely need a little bump in that for sure.
For the image of this part of the city, of the province, I mean, this happens all over the world, of course, but still, there's something about when it happens to you. I think I did everything I could, but I let my guard down once, and I will not do that again, because most of the help I have gotten to date has been from two of these guys here and friends and family and other people, as I said, in the industry who've said, I can assure you I will keep an eye out, and that's all you can do, you know. This stuff is these are commodities. These are tools that we use to bring joy to people and make, you know, a living. And when you lose that, it's personal.
By talking about this and sharing your story, what do you hope could potentially come out of this, of putting this out there?
Well, an ideal situation is not only raising awareness for musicians and other workers and the public who are going to be attending George Street. Hopefully, maybe the George Street Association or the RNC will pick up on this and discussions can happen. Now, we know that not something is going to happen immediately. Things need to be put in place for things like this to work. But hopefully this will just spark a conversation and increase kind of the safety and the feeling of safety for musicians and others on George Street.
Well, Greg, I'm sorry this happened to you, but I really appreciate you sharing your story, and I really appreciate all of you sharing your thoughts on the situation. Thank you so much. Well, Rowan Sherlock also offered some practical advice for musicians. He suggests taking photos of all of your instruments, record all of the serial numbers, and take note of any distinguishing marks in case your instrument is stolen, and be sure to email the photos and the info to yourself in case your phone is also stolen.
Now, before some of our viewers, like my mom, get upset that we're just hanging out at bars today, we actually met up with a number of young soccer players in St. John's who are watching the game, and we're going to hear some of their thoughts coming up after the break.
Well, let's check back now with our World Cup correspondent, Jeremy Eaton. Soccer fans saw Team Canada put on a show tonight against Belgium, but sadly it did not go their way. But Jeremy, you've met a lot of soccer fans today.
Carolyn, we certainly did. Earlier today, we were invited by a local lawyer, former MP Nick Whalen, to take in who's also a soccer coach, by the way, to take in a viewing party that he set up for about 50 or 60 young Fieldian soccer players, because he had attended the game in 1985, and he wanted to help, bring this sort of first time that Team Canada has been in the World Cup since 1986. He wanted to share that with a younger generation of soccer fans. Now, that room was electric in the first 10 minutes, and that's when there was a penalty kick by Alphonso Davies of Team Canada, and he came up a little short, but the place was on wheels, and we chatted to Nick and a couple other people, and here's what they had to say about the soccer game. As somebody who knows very little about soccer, Belgium just scored. Anyway, so sorry, we'll get back to that in a second, but how's this game going for you?
Well, what I was planning to say was that I thought Belgium was ranked second in the world, but right now they're the second on the pitch. But I mean, Belgium just scored, so.
How would you describe the mood here in the atmosphere?
Very excited up until, like 10 seconds ago, but still hope, so.
And how long have you been playing soccer?
Since I was 5.
And how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 11 years old.
And what is it that you like about soccer?
I like the team bond that you get with your friends, and I like how it increases your fitness. And those are my two favorite things.
What's it like to watch the men's team for the first time in a long time play here today?
I think they should be really proud of themselves because they've came so far, and they're playing so well so far. It's unfortunate that Belgium poked a goal in, but they're going to get it back.
How long have you been playing soccer?
Since I was 5, like her.
And how old are you now? 11?
Yes.
And what's your favorite part about playing soccer?
Well, I like that you can play with a team, but I also like how good you feel after, because it almost makes you feel you've accomplished something.
And why did you want to come down here with Anna and some of your other friends and watch the men's team play today?
Well, I'm really happy that Canada got in the World Cup, obviously, because they haven't in a long time. But I think it's important that we also watch the game together, because one of our friends here actually doesn't even play soccer. But we're very glad she came with us.
Your mom was one of the best soccer players in Canada when she went to university, and I know that you know a lot about soccer. How would you describe how Canada is playing today?
I think they're definitely doing really good. Their passes are on point. I think that they're taking a bit too long to get it in the net, because they're taking too long with the shooting, But overall, they're doing very good.
What do you think about the missed penalty kick?
Well, it was a great shot. It was a 50-50 chance. The keeper had to guess which way to go. But I think the missed kick should let it get to their heads.
It was just really good save, and the shot was great. It was just unlucky.
So as you can see, those are some young soccer fans, young Fieldian soccer players who took in the game today, sharing their thoughts at halftime. Now, they're also in line to get pizza, so they might have been a little eager to get going. But anyways, that event was organized by Nick Whalen, who is a soccer coach of amongst his many towns. But he wanted to share the love of this game, because this is the first time in 36 years the men's team in Canada has played in the World Cup. And I know that here at the Trinity Pub, people were having a good time, and they came up a little short today. It was 1-0, but there's still another chance. They're going to play Croatia on Sunday at 12:30, and that's going to be a very important game if Team Canada wants to move on. And
beginning increased supervision of players, coaches, and staff, and a zero-tolerance policy for harassment, discrimination, racism, and sexual violence. The CBC's Carissa Duncan reports on how similar measures are being required outside the organization as well.
The best young male hockey players from around the world will come to Halifax and here to Moncton in just a few weeks. Signs are up across Moncton advertising the games, trying to build excitement. But behind the scenes, record show government officials are also showing caution. Players representing Hockey Canada will be required to take mandatory training around sexual assault and harassment prevention. All requirements by the Nova Scotia government, negotiated with Hockey Canada as part of their hosting agreement. The province says it will also have heightened security at the event. Christina Fifield works with the Avalon Sexual Assault Centre in Halifax as a community coordinator and trauma therapist. She hopes the tournament integrates some of the culture change she says is needed within Hockey Canada and society at large.
They are important, but it's one piece of the measures that are necessary here, because all of those measures are still not addressing the accountability if there's sexualized violence that is taking place. What's that's going to look like if this does happen at the tournament? How do we create safe spaces? But also, how is acts of violence going to be addressed if there is situations?
The requirements were negotiated as part of contribution agreements signed between the host governments and Hockey Canada. They've been in the works for months, but are still being finalized. Internal correspondence shows the Nova Scotia Premier's Chief of Staff wanted the agreements to include specific legal language around how to handle potential claims of sexual abuse and harassment. Like Nova Scotia, New Brunswick's agreement is still in the works. That province plans to contribute $1.25 million to host the tournament, but hasn't paid the money out yet. In a statement, the province says, "We are ensuring that the agreement reached with Hockey Canada will have conditions in place to safeguard the province's investment and see the organization be accountable and address toxic behavioral issues in a way that leads to positive change." The statement says the New Brunswick government still has concerns about the issues at Hockey Canada, but it doesn't suggest the tournament won't go on. Carissa Donkin, CBC News, Moncton.
Well, tomorrow on Newfoundland Morning on CBC Radio, the impermanence of art. Hear from a Grenfell Master's student about an art project where 3 artists will create a work of art and then destroy it after an hour.
Well, Thursday is going to feel very winter-like pretty much right across the province as we see winds and snow. And we're going to see those lasting effects pretty much into the overnight period for the northeastern portions of Newfoundland. Now, the northern, western, and central portions will see those conditions improve quite dramatically as we head through the evening hours, but up across Labrador as well, you're still going to see that snow continue right into the evening hours and overnight into Friday. But eventually that area of low pressure will head further offshore. It'll pull all the wind and snow right along with it, leaving actually a pretty nice afternoon for your Friday, except we will start to see some snow move right back in for Lab West as another area of low pressure moves in. And temperatures on Friday are going to be above zero for the most part, 1 to 3 degrees, just barely above zero. This is a little bit below where we should be sitting this time of year. Up across Labrador, pretty close to where you should be sitting, even a little bit above in some cases. -7 will be the afternoon high in Lab City through the day, again with some periods of snow. Eventually we'll see the clouds move in and this snow will spread further east as we head into the evening hours and overnight on Friday. Now, this next system is going to bring some rain with it. It does look like it'll start as some snow for the central areas, the interior, potentially the west coast and those higher elevations, but we see those pretty much eastern half of the island should fall as rain through the evening hours on Saturday. Temperatures are going to increase as well, slowly, but they're going to increase. So by Saturday afternoon, we're talking about temperatures around 5 to 7 degrees, a little cooler again for central and the west coast, but around 1 to 4 degrees even up across the northern peninsula. Labrador, your temperatures will sit somewhere between -1 and -5, and again, those flurries or light snow will move in through the day. Now, as far as the long-range forecast goes, we'll see a dip on Sunday just in time for the parade, around 0 degrees, but then warm right back up again on Monday, and we'll see some more rain move in. So whatever snow does fall over the next couple of days should be gone by then. And then for central Newfoundland, we're looking at that rain as well, between 4 and 6 degrees. So again, going to eat into some of that snow. For western Newfoundland, you will see likely higher elevations. We'll see that snow continue to pile up. But near the surface with those temperatures between 3 and 4 degrees, there is a chance we'll see some showers in the mix there as well. Now for eastern Labrador, flurries right through Sunday. Monday looks nice at this point, but temperatures will stay below zero, and then well below zero for western Labrador as well. But again, we'll get more in. We'll see the sunshine on Saturday, but then get right back into the cloudy skies and potential for some snow. Now this is a great shot.
Oh wow, that's a wintry scene.
It is Winter Wonderland in Clarenville. It'll look a lot more like this tomorrow for sure. Well, actually, it'll be blowing around, so it'll feel like a snow globe. But Denise sent this great shot to us, and if you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, send them to my Facebook page, Twitter, or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Just makes me want to run through that and just slap the branches with my hands, you know, just to flick all the snow off. Anyways.
Amazing. That sounds like fun, actually.
Yeah. Well, that's it for us this evening. Thank you so much for spending part of your night with us, and hope you can join us again tomorrow.
Good night.